Guys, welcome back. The Sdho. How are you doing? I'm sure you can probably tell if you were curious, we will be in Ableton today. Which if you haven't watched in a few months, and I don't blame you, I don't expect anyone to watch everything, although I do believe there's about 10 people, I think, that might, and I believe we're calling that the Mag 10, so thank you Mag 10. Welcome Mag 10, and welcome everybody else. Thank you for tuning in. Why did I say that earlier about if you haven't been around in a couple months? Because I've been actually doing things other than Ableton lately, and I never said that I would be stopping with the Ableton, and today we will be doing Ableton, and it's going to be really fun, and it's going to give really good ideas and really good tips, and then I don't know what we're going to do after that. It depends how much brain power focus I have. What we're going to do in Ableton today is we're going to play with the, first what we're going to do is it's going to be about sound design, okay? And when you're doing sound design, oftentimes when you're doing the sound design, it's helpful if there's like a MIDI clip playing, right? Whether this is one of your projects, and you know, in that project you're looping a certain part, maybe it's the bass line, maybe it's like a lead melody line, and it's playing with all of your other tracks, or maybe it's just isolated by itself, you know, and as that's happening and it's playing, well then you can turn all the synthesizer parameters and you can dial in the right sound. Not just to dial in the right sound, but to get to know sound synthesis, get better at your sound design. Now, so where we're going to start is we're going to need some MIDI notes, and I'm not going to open up an old project. I'm not going to search for a MIDI file. We're going to get our MIDI notes to start doing that in a very fun way, and we've done this many times. I even have some tutorials on it, but we're going to be using the MIDI effects to basically generate a whole bunch of MIDI notes. It's really fun. It's a great technique for making ambient music, and that's going to give us, and it's also going to show us a really cool trick of how you can then not just, you will essentially record these MIDI notes that we're going to be belting out of these MIDI effects, and then we're going to use that to drop a synth on just those MIDI notes, and then we're going to play it while we play around with the synth. I think we're going to play with the electric synth, but we might do some other ones. And for anyone who hasn't been around a lot, for the most part, when I work on all of what the hell is this? Like it's got all of the effects. Oh, it's because, okay, got it. I was like, so anyways, it's going to be great. I guarantee you're going to pick up a lot of really good techniques, have a lot of good fun. And how have you been doing? Have you been enjoying the newer SDHOs that have been more like spiritual type stuff, AI, future type stuff, spiritual stuff? I think I already said that. We're just going to do whatever I feel like, so you'll just see it's like SDHO 104, you know? The previous one, SDHO 103. I'm not really going to put anything in the titles, just so you don't really know what I'm going to talk about. And as I'm going to do whatever I feel like. And what's really cool is I feel like doing Ableton today. It's been a long time. I want to let you guys know that if you're interested in me like teaching, tutoring, whatever in Ableton, anything having to do with not just Ableton, but like music theory, sound design, composing full-scale tracks, other things that may help in your songwriting process, because someone reached out to me and they were kind of mentioning some things that they wanted to kind of talk about, and they were obviously music type stuff, but it was weird because I was like, not only was I hearing what they were wanting to have some sessions about, but it wasn't just like, and this is just my own inferring, I was like, I feel like when we're making music, we're not just making music, like we're having like a connection with our soul, you know? Like it's like a creative dance with like our higher self, you know? And I almost feel like this music type stuff, it's almost like you can think about it in like a different way, a spiritual way, and then it may answer questions for you that you're having when you're right. If that didn't make any sense, whatever. I can talk in many different languages, spiritual languages, creative languages, and it's been about a month. I'm excited to get on here. How have you been? I'm going to take a little sip here, wet the beak, and then we're going to start generating some MIDI notes, go over this really amazing ambient technique. Then we're going to get those MIDI notes and we're going to use that as a basis to do some sound design. I think we're going to go through some of Ableton's devices, electric, because we never do electric, and I don't know, maybe drift, which was a newer one. And how are you doing? How has your week been? I'll listen. Yeah, I'm glad all these planets are starting to move out of Pisces too. There's been too many planets in Pisces. Pisces is a good sign. You know, it's a very creative sign. It's a very spiritual sign. But the downsides to Pisces, the shadow aspect, is that it can be very, like, things can be unclear. It can be very illusory. Pisces energy and its shadow aspect can be very like escapism, which I don't know if you're like me, but there's times where I'm just like, forget this, I'm numbing the hell out and I don't care. Comfortably numb. So anyways, let's start. Now, I'm in Wavetable right now. You can use anything. Right now I'm on Wavetable, but it's just a sine wave, right? It's just a sine wave. It's just a sine wave. You can do anything. I don't really care what it sounds like. When I do this technique with the MIDI effects, I almost like using just a sine wave, because it's like the most basic, like primitive sound wave, oscillator type to use, because it's just fun when you do this technique, but it doesn't really matter because all we're really caring about is all the MIDI notes that we're going to get from it. Now, we're going to start doing that. Loading things up, but we need to record these MIDI notes, so we are going to right click in here and get a MIDI track, and then what the hell was that noise? Whatever, mate, I'm not gonna let it so do Command Option I to open this property, the IOs. You can click right down here, over here, the IOs. And I'm gonna click this drop down, and I want this track to just record MIDI. And for that to do so, and for you to hear anything in this track, you need both of these to be lit up, right? Notice how they're both lit up, okay? You might be like, dude, why are you going over this? Well, because I can almost guarantee you, going into the preferences, that some of you, because I think this is the default, if you go to record warp launch, yours is probably like this, where you can only have one at a time. You can get around that by like holding down Command and clicking, but if you want to just not do that, you can come into here, into preferences, make sure you're on record warp launch, under exclusive, turn off ARM, and if you would like that to also apply to the solo button, you can do that too, but so you could have like multiple, so if you had like 8 tracks playing, you only wanted to hear 2, you wouldn't want to have the exclusive on there. So I'm just mentioning that to you. So yeah, so now, okay, now we can do that. And then solo, right? But when I go to solo, if I click here, see, so that's why we didn't do that with solo. And we could if we wanted, but what matters is this. So this MIDI track, this MIDI track, I wanted to record the MIDI from this wavetable. So MIDI from wavetable. I'll just rename this to synth. I don't know why, just cause synth. Now, when we go into here, one second. Okay, so we got the notes going. And I'm trying to find, I want to make sure that I'm recording this. So just to make sure, let's see. Okay, so we're recording the MIDI from here whenever we decide to record. Now let's go do our technique. So we've got wavetable open. You can have anything open you want. I'm just going to have a sine wave. So if you want it to sound similar to me when you follow along, just make sure the oscillator type, the wavetable or the wave type is sine wave, or do whatever you want. This is not the part. We're concerned with just MIDI notes right now. So go into MIDI effects, and the workhorse here is going to be the arpeggiator. But first I'm going to drop a chord device. You can drop it there or double click. It will always just go here. And right now I'm just generating these notes. I'm playing them on my laptop keys because it's very convenient to do so. If you see this little like yellow highlighted key thing up here, that lets me like hit notes on my keyboard here, which I think is called the QWERTY keyboard. You know, that's what it's called on like a laptop or a computer, desktop computer. So if you're not hearing that, make sure this thing is enabled. Otherwise, you wouldn't. So if I click a note, I only get one note. But if I come here to the chord and I say 7, it's going to play my note, which I'm playing a C. And then because this says +7, it says whatever MIDI note you play, so I'm playing a C, I'm going to now play a note 7 semitones up. 7 semitones up is super harmonic. When you're playing like a note, that's the perfect fifth. And you get this. The only thing that's more harmonic than the perfect fifth is if you did 12 semitones up, which would be the octave. Yeah, octave, that's so good. Octave, yeah, that's so cool. Can't even really tell. So yeah, and then I'm going to choose like 3 because that's the minor third. So right now we have a minor triad because it's when you play the note and then you play 3 semitones up, which is a minor third. And then you then add that with the 7 semitones up, the perfect fifth. You then get a minor triad because it's 3 notes. And again, this doesn't, you don't have to follow along this. You know, I just share a lot of the stuff because it's better to share a lot of the stuff than not so much of the stuff. So, and then if I play another note higher up, wonderful. And that's what's called parallel harmony. So every note I play is gonna be the root note of the chord, and then another one up 7 and up 3. And if you don't like the way that's reading out, I'll just reverse these reverse them for you. And there we go. And so yeah, and that's not necessarily what I want. I will add a 10 to that. That would give it a minor 7. And then I will add a 14, which will be, that's adding the 9th. And maybe let's add up 2, because I wanted to cycle through these with an appreciatia. That's the only time I'm ever French is when I'm saying arpeggiator. For some reason, I have to say this appreciatia. And then someone will say, well, that doesn't even sound French. And I'll say, yes, I know, that doesn't matter. I'm just being goofy here. Can we not be goofy anymore? Let's make goofy great again, okay? All right, so, okay, let's add one more because we should probably just fill it all out. The octave, plus 12. So now we've got this. Sounds a little crazy, but when we put the arpeggiator, and by the way, the order of the arpeggiator does matter. Now it's just repeating it, but we don't want it to just be repeating it like that, okay? Oh, I'm going to go into audio. I always put a limiter at the end. Because when you're doing things, especially sound design, or you're doing anything, like, it's going to run hot, you know what I mean? And you don't want to be clipping because it sounds bad. And once it's like, well, I guess it really doesn't matter for this particular thing because we're really just trying to get the MIDI notes. But yeah, it's just a good habit to be in. I normally always have a compressor as well at the end, and then also an EQ because, you know, if you were to, let's say, be like finishing a track or something at the end, there's no way you're going to have a track and you're about to like print out this wonderful piece of music. There's always going to be a need on every track for a little bit of EQ and probably a little bit of compression. You know what I mean? So like, I have those on my default track, but because I open this up and I just want to delete everything out just to start from like bare bones scratch, I didn't have that. So I don't really need the limiter. That doesn't really matter, but I just do it. Force a habit. I'm a creature of habit here. All right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So right now, I am clicking a note, and the arpeggiator, let's turn off chord. The arpeggiator is just going to take my note, and it's going to repeat it a bunch of times. So if there was no arpeggiator, it would just be this. With the arpeggiator, we got this. And it's eighth notes to this. But I might not want that, so I'm going to go to like free. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now let's see what happens when I put chord on. So a note is going through, one note. Arpeggiator is repeating that note a bunch of times. And then that one note that's being rapid fired with the arpeggiator is then playing in addition to all of these extra pitches with the chord because of this order, right? Yeah. And by the way, MIDI effects will always go before the device here. So like you'll never put an audio effects always go after the device in Ableton. That will just happen. You know, you don't have to know that. You couldn't drag it over here if you wanted. It just wouldn't happen. I'm only saying that just so like if you were curious, you then just heard me say that right now, and then you would be like, oh yeah, I think you said that. So I don't want the chord here. I want it here because I want to play my note, and then I want it to then play all these other notes through the chord. So now it's hurling a chord. 7 notes is being hurled into this arpeggiator, and now the arpeggiator will play them back one after each other, depending on the style. So right now it is up. I always do up to start. I'm going to do down. So it's going to play them from down. So it's going to do the 14, then the 12, then the 10, then the 7, then the 3, then the 2, then the 1. And so this is what it will sound like. I'm sure you already probably knew that, but I wanted to be making all of my things to give information for the people that are already advanced and for the people who are starting out, because we don't discriminate here on the SDHO show. You know what's going on. Let's go. Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Closing that, doing Command Option I. So if we recorded this right here in the synth track, it's got, you know, this is what it will look like. This beautiful. This is what it will look like. Nothing, just this bar. Okay, now if I play it back, what do you think is going to happen? Wonderful. But I don't want that. I want all of those individual notes. Now, yes, I'm getting that from here because that's what you see. Like, this is what I'm pushing. I'm pushing C3, and that C3 is being run through the chord. It's then being run through the appreciatia. Give me a baguette. And then it's going... I don't have any accents. I just talk. It comes out. So just keep paying attention. Okay, so then it goes into the wavetable, which is a sine wave, okay? You got it. You got it. Now... I don't want that. I want a bunch of notes. So here's what you do. You go into the I/O. You make sure that you have a MIDI track that is taking the MIDI from this track It can be called anything. It could be called like da 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 da, you know, and then you would want to find that. And I actually don't like that. I liked it when it was called synth, so I'm going to call it synth again. I just wanted to do that for demonstration purposes, and that's what popped into my head. Okay, so we're taking the MIDI from this track called synth, and then we're going to open this up, and we're going to want to record it post. I want to record it post. This should be all good. So now, when I start playing, we can just delete this. When we start playing, we should have all of that. See? Now, if you were to play this, nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Why? Because there's no instrument on this track, but we wanted, but if we all of a sudden we went into instruments and we dropped an electric, actually sounds pretty cool. I want to play around with electric because we don't play around with it a lot. And actually I have an idea. I'm going to go back into synth. I'm going to go back into the apreciacja, and I'm going to turn it off because I want it to do like an actual thing. So I'm going to make it pretty quick. I think I'm going to go to like 32, and I'm not going to do down. I'm going to do, so there's like a bunch of them here. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like up would be like the opposite of what we heard. Up, down, it would go up, up, and then down, all of these notes. And down, up. Converge, diverge is very interesting, and the pinky down is good. And that's kind of it. But con and diverge is really good. So like listen to con and diverge right now. I think we just want this to be monitor in. We don't want to hear that. Whoa. I want it off? Will this record? Look at that. It's converging and then diverging. Mate, that's wonderful. You don't even gotta do anything else. That's like, I don't even care about the sound design. It was only this thing used to be blowing my mind. Well, you know what's really crazy? Is that like, I'm using Live 11, Live 12 has abilities to like do all of these sort of MIDI generation things. But like if you were using anything earlier than Live 12, which I haven't updated yet, I think I probably will soon as I have like a deal or anything. Because like, that's another thing too, guys. If you want me to be doing more Ableton stuff, like reach out. I would say book a session. Like I'm about to, I think, have my first client here. And, you know, I started thinking about Ableton, getting excited about Ableton. Like this person was like, yeah, I'm kind of interested to do this. You know, I'm kind of curious. And it was really weird too, because like one of my friends reached out from the past and was like, I want to know what like DAW I should use. And then this other person was like, yeah, I'm kind of curious if I should be using Ableton or something else. And then I realized, I'm like, well, I need to make sure that like I'm up to snuff on like, I think I know everything about all of the DAWs, but like it's been so long and I did all the research, and yeah, you definitely want Ableton if you have it. So why am I saying all that? I'm saying, hey, if you're ever like, hey, I would like him to make more Ableton stuff. Well, I'm excited about Ableton now because now I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking about it. And when you think about things, and this goes for anything, you get questions that pop off in your head. And when you get questions that pop off in your head, solutions or answers start finding you. And those answers might be like, oh, sit down, open up Ableton, do this, do that. So if you want to keep me excited about Ableton, book some sessions. We can just talk and chat about things, and then eventually segue into like working on like projects you have or whatever the hell you want to do. And my rates are very, very, very low. Because yeah, that's just what it is. And then let's get into it. So reach out, don't be shy, and whatever, mate. So I'm holding down one note and I'm getting this. But what does converge sound like if it just does converging? Okay, let's do diverge. That sounded kind of similar. Converge. Con and diverge. You will notice that different patterns will happen if like there's less notes or more notes. So like if I turn this one off, it might sound a little different. Obviously, I'm removing the octave, but meaning like, I think you'll hear that more when you, all right, we won't get into that because that's not the basis. But anyways. And if you wanted more notes, you could like group it. I'm not going to go into it. I'm starting to realize that I'm having a bad time holding my attention span. I think I'm doing too much talking. I know I need to get into more of the Ableton stuff, but I know you're here for the explanations because you're probably like me. That's why you're tuned in. And thank you for continually tuning into the show that is only called SDHO. We don't say anything else. It's only for the people who know what it is. Not trying to do any marketing, nothing. And we're going to learn some really cool stuff. I've been doing too much talking. We got to dive in to the nerdy gritty and just get into the Ableton. Wonderful. Wonderful. Oh, and the other good ones are like pinky up, pinky down. Pinky up, down. Damn, that sounds amazing. We should... man, that's just... Okay, I'm going to open up an audio track. And I just want to record the audio because I just want to hear that again and do that again. Okay, all right. So now if you record the MIDI, like we were doing here, that's what you can do. But you can also, as you know, record the audio. Just go to resampling and then... Whatever. I didn't like that. I think I forgot what I was playing. But just to give you an idea, the pinky up, it would be like, it plays a thing, but like every other note, it plays like the highest one. That's why like it gets that sound. So let's just... You can play with the rate. Let's record it, mate. And now it's all quantized because we put it on the grid. And then let's click play so it loops. Why is it doing that? Well, it's doing that because it's playing through the electric. Now, what I wanted to do is, well, I had some questions about this technique that I wanted to make sure that I had. We're going to have this amazing SDHO. Thank you for being on here with me. So right now we're just going to focus on this. So all we got was just these MIDI notes. Now these MIDI notes are just data. It's like play these things, you know, play these notes, but nothing will play if you don't have a synthesizer. So if we double click this, we chose to use electric. Now you can use whatever your heart desires. If you have a plugin, use that. We now have MIDI notes. So we're going to play this thing. It's going to loop. And yeah, I know it sounds boring, which a lot of the time that's what it does, but that's good because that So for instance, if you were to drop an analog on there, it would sound terrible, but now it's up to you to make it sound good, you know? Why does it sound bad? I don't know, probably because it's maybe too high of an octave, like put the octave lower. There's probably too many harmonics coming through. Well, of course, it's analog, like it's expecting you to use the filter to like filter them out, then perhaps apply a filter envelope to give it like shape, give it some bite to, you know, open up and close the filter to let more harmonics in and out, whatever you want. We should probably learn about the sound design, which we are doing, but I wanted to do electric, and it sounds kind of okay out of the box. I would probably put a phaser on here, go into audio effects, put a phaser on here, maybe some delay, some reverb, but I got an idea. I was like, what if I can figure out, not just because electric is supposed to like mimic an electric piano, and with all these parameters that you can play with. But my thought was like, what kind of weird sounds can we get? And when you turn the knobs around, you don't quite know exactly what everything's doing in more of like a controlled context. And what I mean is like, I was like, what if we just turn everything down and then turn certain things up to see what it does? And then we can like take like a ground floor first principles approach. So let's just start playing. If we get sick of the pattern, we'll just generate another one. And I want to play around with this. So you've got this hammer here, fork. Notice how this little diagram changes. And so you can play with these. So let's play it, and let's start tweaking. Let's just like turn. Okay, that's interesting. Someone said, "Hey mate, put a reverb up on chill." Wonderful, mate. Thank you very much. Okay, so time. We're in the fork, so that's this part of like this theoretical piano. I like to get more decay because I want it to ring. Listen to the tone. Now we're in the hammer. And again, look, it's just going over the thing we played. Phaser flanger. I'm gonna put it before the reverb. I want it on phaser. Okay, why am I not here? I'm gonna select this and push Control G, and I'll create a chain. If you hear that noise, it's the audio dropping out, and then that's also this pudgy dog that's snoring on the couch. So actually, yeah, I'm going to turn this electric off, and on the chain, I'm going to drop something else. I'm going to drop a drift, which was like a newer one that came with like Live 11. So let's play this now. Let's get this moving. Let's take the depth down. Offset to make it go. I'll lower the rate. Well, let's put this one back. And then you can use these to like dial them in. And I'm gonna go with this electric. It's a little bit too much high end for me, but I'm gonna go with the channel EQ. Just because it's like easy. And I'm gonna go to high. Let's get a delay on here. So I was doing this and I was like, hey, like, you know, that's a really great thing because, you know, not only do people want to, you know, get better at sound design, I was like, but I want people to know that, you know, yeah, you can play notes with one hand on your keyboard or on your laptop or whatever. And yeah, you can turn knobs, but like, it's more effective, let's say, when you already have MIDI notes playing. And because what I was doing was generating a lot of MIDI notes, and then in my head, I'm like, well, let's take these MIDI notes and let's play around with some weird physical modeling Ableton synths. And then I was like, holy shit, that was fun. That felt good. I learned a lot of things. And I've been secretly thinking like, what's going to be the SDHO, the next SDHO? And then I was like, holy shit, let's do this. So I hope you enjoyed some of that. I'm going to try to do a little bit more Ableton. If it gets a little bit finicky like that, sometimes I kind of like to let it move out and just relax itself for a little bit. Let's see if I play, if it gets crazy. Oh, by the way, and then you can move, you can like pan it. So like this is going to go more to the right. This is going to go more to the left. So it gives it more like spatial width. And we could add more if we wanted. Let's give it some more. Ping pong. Dry wet. It's basically like bypassing it. I didn't like that. I like the other one better. I like the 2 and the 3 combo. I wasn't really doing much. I like chorus as well. If not like a phaser, I like a little bit of a chorus. This will cut out some of the lows, because you don't need like the lows being chorused. I like slow chorus. Take the dry wet down and hear what you're doing when you're like using it. I was gonna add like a basic like 4 on the floor drum pattern, but like dumbass audio dropouts started doing that, and they will never bring us down. We already have all this recorded, so we'll do one more thing while we can. Open up a audio track. Open up the I/O over to the resampling, and I want to record it. So of course you got to record and enable the track, and then click record. You silly goose. Audio, not MIDI. Audio. It's only audio or MIDI. And of course, it's not picking up my voice because my voice is being recorded through a different program, but you already knew that. Notice how it's bigger down here. That's the right channel. That's the left channel, the audio. That's the right channel. Just means it's louder. We can change that too, which is actually interesting, and which I will probably show you in a second here. We're about to be done with this. That's enough, mate. And let's move the clip here. Now, this is something I think all of you should know if you didn't already know, because this will be very important for y'all if you didn't know this. So why does it look so different? If we come into here, we have one synth, the electric, coming through on the right ear, and we have the drift coming through the left ear. The drift is louder. I think that's why that one's louder. It's why it's like, you know, like the higher the amplitude of the wave is, like that represents volume. What if you only wanted like one or the other? Well, I don't know if you knew this, but if you go into audio effects, drop a utility, just listen. It would be best on headphones, but like if you change this, it will only play what's coming out of the left and it'll play it on both. Or if you go to the right, it will only play what's coming out of the right, but it'll put it in both. Why is that interesting? Or why is that like utility? Why is that utilitarian? Well, because I'm sure you guys have, if you guys have done anything with audio, I'm sure at some point you've gotten an audio recording and it was like only in the left ear or only in the right ear, right? And so like if it was only in the left ear, if you came in and selected the left, it would then put it in the right ear as well, and you would remedy that. So like I can't even tell you how many times that's kind of come to the thing. But normally it's at stereo, so it's kind of how it is. So take a listen and then listen. Notice how we got the different ones, but listen when you go to left. It's only playing what's coming out of here, but it's putting it here. And now we'll go back to stereo. And then now I want to take the right one and then put it here, just so you know this is a thing that happens. I bet you a lot of people don't know this. So right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Now because I have this in audio, I can then do cool audio stuff with it, right? So in order for it to be looped, you need to have warped going on. I like it in repitch because then I can do this stuff. So let's play it. And like we can play with the BPM. I'm trying to think if there's anything. As soon as I say that, the audio goes, cuts out and cuts back in. Thanks for needing to like update. We here at Apple, we need to make a new operating system, a new software update every year. So if people say Apple is not innovating, we'll say, well, but. You do know every year we do a new OS update. Yes. Never mind that all these programs that you use might not be well suited for our upgrade. Yeah. It's like I'm done with that. I got nothing else to say. I'm gonna put some music on and then probably wax poetic a little bit and then get the hell out of here. Whoa. No, it's recording, don't worry. I've run into this many times. Oh, boy. So yeah, Ableton's still number one. I was actually very surprised when I was like asking AI. I was like, what are the most used DAWs in 2025? Number one, Ableton. And I'll be honest, man, if it came back and said something else was number one over Ableton, I'd be like, I mean, I could be biased, but I don't hear anyone talk about anything other than Ableton, unless like you're using Pro Tools. And Pro Tools was like the OG DAW. I believe it came out in like 93, maybe earlier, but I think like it started working its way into like major like studio recording places. And it was like very like shaky in the olden days because you had to have a pretty powerful like computer. Don't you dare audio drop out on me. We ain't even doing that, Ableton, Rachel. Yeah. That's so goofy. I hate updating software. I'm gonna do it though, just to see if that's like the thing that fixes it. But anyways, I forgot what I was gonna say. Forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, so it was like Ableton number one, FL Studio or like Fruity Loops from back in the day number two. Number three was Logic Pro, which Logic Pro is like the Apple product. It's like Apple's DAW. And believe it or not, and like I was using Perplexity AI, and it was like sometimes referred to as the big three, like Ableton Live, FL Studio, and Logic Pro. And I was like, big three? Big three? Because like I would have thought Pro Tools would be in there, you know what I mean? Even though it's mostly used by the geezers. Like the geezers, the old folks use it, you know, like in the nursing homes, they all use Pro Tools in the nursing homes. He's like, well, I remember back in my day, I would have an old band come in, and then I'd have Pro Tools, and I'd make sure that I had all the mics on the drums, and that pesky guitarist, he always had all that stuff running from his nose. I think he might have a drug problem. And then I had the bassist, and then, you know what I mean? Like, it's more for, like, if you're recording a band, like, that, like, so, like, if you're kind of in, like, you know, a recording studio setup, a lot of those dudes use Pro Tools. You know, but like if you're trying to do like more, basically if you're trying to do everything, especially like electronic music, especially if you're trying to perform it live and just the powerhouse that's Ableton Live, nothing has supplanted it yet. And like FL Studio, I'm sure is like really good, but like FL Studio, known back in that day as Fruity Loops, has been around for a very long time. So it was like a good product that a lot of people used before Ableton became what it's been today. I don't even want to say today. I mean, it's been that way for well over a decade. But FL Studio, yeah, if you're good at it, use it. If you're good at other programs, use it. Logic Pro, if you're like a total like Mac person, well, you're only going to be able to get Logic Pro, which supposedly is the third of the big three, which I would have thought it would have been Pro Tools, but like there's probably a lot of people that want to do a lot of music work and they're like total like Apple Mac type people. And like when I've bought in like multiple MacBook Pros over the years, and it's like, do you want to update and get Final Cut Pro for your video stuff? I'm like, no, because I have it. And it's like, do you want to add on Logic Pro? And I'm like, no, because I use Ableton. So yeah, so that goes that. And then there's like Cubase, which has been around for a while. Reaper, that's been around, I guess, for a while. But like, unless you're like familiar and you're like slick with it, you know how to use it, why use it? That's like the old adage where people say, what's the best DAW? And it's like, the best DAW is the one you use, right? So if you're someone who like uses FL Studio and you know how to make good music, well, I'm pretty damn sure you know how to make good music. So if someone says, oh, well, you need to get Ableton and you need to be doing Ableton, and then someone says, well, do I need Ableton to be able to make good music? The answer is no. Dance with did you ever hear that expression? Dance with the person you brought to the dance. Wait, is that what the expression is? Dance with the person who brought you to the dance, right? You know what I'm saying? So like, my chubby doggy staring at me. Merlin, we got home like an hour and a half ago and I fed you. Do you really think I'm going to feed you again? I know you're always hungry, but come on, what do you think? Also, there was a thing called Bitwig Studio. Now, I got into Ableton in 2013, like 2015 or so, maybe around there, like this Bitwig came out. People were like, oh no, Bitwig. Is Bitwig gonna supplant Ableton? I think it was like number 8 or 9 on the depth chart that like Perplexity AI like farted out for me. And I really haven't heard about it in years, but like I think someone like took the Ableton code and was like, I'm gonna build an Ableton that's like slightly better, and you do have to pay for it, and I never really heard that coming on at all. And so it's kind of like, I mean, I don't know why you would use anything other than Ableton, but if you do like pick up like some sort of MIDI controller or an audio interface, it's gonna give you some DAW. So my thoughts is, if you aren't in Ableton or whatever, if you have a free product, use that. You know what I mean? But yeah, you would probably want to use Ableton. I don't know why you would want, especially if it's like electronic music. Like, I don't know why you would want to use anything else. And then any audio thing you would need to do. I mean, to somehow think that like you wouldn't be able to like record instruments and things, like of course it could. And to somehow think that there would be horrible like audio editing tools, that's not true. I think really what that whole discussion boils down to is, know that you're using a feature-rich, robust product. Know that if you used it enough and you took the time to learn all of its architecture, you wouldn't need anything else. So when I did my due diligence, when I did my research back in like 2012, which was a great time to do it, by the way, because Ableton was when Ableton Live 8 was out, and like a lot of like electronic, like EDM type people were like, oh, like it's Ableton. That's kind of where I knew I needed to be, and it's still there today. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to do the plugin stuff. Like, I wanted to say, listen, if I get the full version, if I get the Ableton Live Suite, I want to make sure that I'm not shopping around for like plugin synthesizers, or I need some like distortion plugin. I want to know I have all of it. And you do. And I want to make sure that there's nothing missing. I don't want to think that I'm not able to like record my guitar and process like, you know, live effects on my guitar through either, you know, some sort of like Ableton effect or some sort of other like effects rig or something. So I would say go with Ableton. Plus, you can follow along and watch with me. I would also say probably consider booking a session. I think it's a very reasonable rate because I don't have any clients at the moment. I would definitely like to start taking some on. We can get into all kinds of stuff. I think the person was like, one of the things they were interested in, they were like, I would also kind of like to like go through the Ableton menu, or the Ableton, what's it called? The Ableton manual. And I'm like, dude, I bought Ableton Live 9 when you would have to go into a store and buy it, and when you would buy it, it came with the manual, a thick book. I used to take that book with me 10 years ago in 2015. I would take the Ableton manual and just like open it up and like read it on my lunch break. You know what I mean? Like, I wanted to make sure that I knew everything, right? Almost as if there's like a billion possibilities. But if you could know all of them, you could somehow synthesize and funnel them down and be able to make something that you could never otherwise make if you didn't have all of that. And because you took the time to learn all of that, you can make incredible things. And I hope you do, and I hope you've enjoyed this, and we will keep going. We will keep plugging through. I can't promise you what we're going to be doing next. I think we might jump into some digital art stuff, maybe some 3D computer graphics, rendering stuff, maybe make some cool things. I don't know. Maybe we'll be continuously going with the spiritual flow. I don't know. Maybe even back into the Ableton. Hope you've been doing well. God bless yourself. Enjoy yourself. I will be talking with you soon, son.